Dreams are something that we all have, and for that reason, they are something that we can all be engaged with. What are dreams, and what can learning more about them help us remember and understand about our true nature and our potential within reality? This is Skull Babylon, and you're about to listen to episode 97 of Paradigm Shift Radio, in which we welcomed on our friend Thomas Peisel to talk about dream exploration and lucid dreaming. Thomas is an author of the Field Guide to Lucid Dreaming and is passionate about helping others explore more of their inner worlds to help us continue to know ourselves. So if you're interested in learning and experiencing more about what this life has to offer, then stay tuned in for some overview and practical tips about how you too can engage with your dreams. Tune in again for future episodes of PSR and go back and check out any of the past episodes you missed, plus more conscious media at ParadigmShiftCentral.com. Continue the conversations with your friends as we all continue to help each other remember. Enjoy the flow, and one love.
Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 merrily. You know how the rest of it goes, because quite frankly, theoretically, and most definitely, life is but another version of a dream. Dun, dun, dun. The suspense builds and the shiftiness just continues to unfold into the future for another awesome consciousness-expanding, community, inspirational episode of Paradigm Shift Radio. Hello, everyone, to wherever you are, whenever you are. This is your good buddy, Skull the Wolf, Brendon, a.k.a. Skull Babylon, the man with many names who is here once again to be able to join you for another shifty evening, for another shifty episode, for another mind-expanding, educational couple of hours as we piece together some of the mysteries of the universe. In tonight's episode of Paradigm Shift Radio, we're going to be talking about lucid dreaming. Very, very popular topic. Those of you who have looked into it before, I'm sure you are quite familiar with the concept of it. But tonight, considering the idea that dreams are something that everybody can relate to, we're going to be approaching this kind of, again, not necessarily from the beginner's point of view, but with the idea that there may be people listening who have never really heard much about lucid dreaming and may not be entirely familiar. So we're going to be approaching things with the idea that, like, hey, let's work as a team to try and explain and approach these concepts with the educational aspect at the forefront of our mind, to be able to give people a sense of how they themselves can experience and can practice the art, the experience, the exploration of dreams themselves. And we're going to be joined by our good buddy Thomas Peisel, who is going to be co-hosting this episode with us tonight, and I'll get into that in a second. But just, of course, at the top of the show, I just want to say thank you so much to everybody who's tuned in. And this is really... It's funny because, just to give you a little bit of backstory, today has been like a bit of a busy day with me today, doing a little bit of superhero things, was out of town, driving back in, pretty exhausted, but I am dedicated to being here to be able to do Paradigm Shift Radio for you guys. And quite frankly, I was so busy getting ready to do Paradigm Shift Radio that I literally almost forgot that we're actually on our 2-year anniversary of Paradigm Shift Radio. So this show right here marks the 2-year anniversary of Paradigm Shift Radio. So I just want to say a huge congratulations to everyone. Pat on the back for myself. I mean, 2 years is a heck of a lot of time to be able to come here consistently weekend after weekend and doing this, because we know that creating the space for conscious conversation is an important thing. It gives people an opportunity to connect with community. Friendships are forged. Ideas are birthed into reality. And consciousness itself really expands through this process, and that's why we do it. So, yes, thank you. Thank you to the team. This is a shared victory. I just want to remind you that. So this is an awesome thing, and let's continue to do that more and more. So yeah, episode 96 was last week. I was pretty excited about that, and episode 97 kind of begins like the next chapter of Paradigm Shift Radio, I guess you could say. And I'm happy to be able to do it with Thomas Pisel tonight about lucid dreaming. So of course, ParadigmShiftCentral.com, if those of you who have not checked out the show or anything like that, you can check it out. As I mentioned, Paradigm Shift Radio is in its 2nd-year anniversary, but the project itself, Paradigm Shift, as a global thing, has actually been going on for 5 years, give or take. I've kind of lost track. It just kind of, it's become like this lifestyle sort of thing. But again, thank you so much, everybody, for being here. And Facebook.com/Paradigm Shift Radio is what you want to check out. And there's lots of other stuff I can tell you about. But one of the main things I'll just mention at the top is the idea that you can get a chance to win the free shift buttons. A lot of you are familiar with the shift buttons. We'll talk about those about halfway through the show. Those of you who are familiar with the concept of the shift buttons, send a message to Facebook.com/Paradigm Paradigm Shift Radio now to enter yourself into the draw. And those of you who aren't familiar or just want to find out more, browse the website as you're listening to the show and check out ParadigmShiftCentral.com/buttons. The buttons are awesome. They are what they sound like. They're buttons that you can use to plant seeds, awaken consciousness, make new friends, and invite people to get connected with this project and change the world. So hack the matrix. Hack the matrix. Woo! So anyways, I'm obviously pretty excited about this, and we're ready to get the ball rolling on this one. So we're gonna bring on Thomas Peisel, and Thomas Peisel, he's a buddy who I met while I was at the Lucidity Festival this year while filming Journey to Lucidity 2. Those of you who are familiar with that, you can check out facebook.com/Journey to Lucidity to see the first one. The second one, I will just give you a quick update, is currently in post-production. There's a lot of work that's still going on with that, and I do invite you guys to help contribute with that process, and also to be able to get early access to the movie once it's ready by contributing at the funding page at gofundme.com/Journey to Lucidity 2. So Thomas, I ran into him there at the Lucidity Festival this year, and he actually saw the first Journey to Lucidity movie, and he was familiar with my work, so it was pretty cool to be able to connect with him. And he was on the Lucid Dreaming panel discussion there, and then afterwards we sat around and we chatted for a while, and I actually did an interview with him that will actually be featured in the sequel in Journey to Lucidity 2. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to be able to connect like that. And we'll bring on Thomas, and he'll tell you a little bit more about his background with lucid dreaming and what he has to share as he helps co-host this episode. So he's just off the top. He's an author. He's got a book out there, and he's got a Facebook page. So we're gonna learn all about that. So again, if you've ever questioned, if you've ever been curious as to what this reality is, what the deal with this reality is, then I think it's an important thing to explore our relationship with the reality of dreams, and to ask the question, what can studying dreams teach us about the bigger picture, so to speak. So we'll continue to explore that. So Thomas Peisel, if you're ready, we're going to bring you on the Paradigm Shift Radio. Here we go. Hey, Thomas. Going pretty shifty, man. Going pretty shifty.
All right. So. Yeah, that was a great intro. Hey, and congrats for the 2 years.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, time sure does fly when you're being shifty, and I know I keep saying that word, but it's probably because I'm tired and fatigued. But I think that me being tired and fatigued and like running on fumes will actually just make this episode more interesting, because I'm not convinced that I could be dreaming right now, and that's what this episode is about. So, how do we know? God. So.
I feel like I'm always dreaming. It's always about being awake or not.
That's right, awaking within the dream. So, cool. So, Thomas, just give a little bit more introduction to the people who are listening. Just tell them a little bit about yourself, your background, and where they might be able to connect and find some of the work that you've already got out there.
Oh, wow. I'm a normal person, just like anyone else. I wrote a book, co-authored a book called A Field Guide to Lucid Dreaming, and I wanted to write it just because I love lucid dreaming. It's been a huge part of my life ever since I was a young kid, and I would always try to get my friends involved in it. I was always trying to get people interested in it, because I just couldn't imagine anything more amazing. You could be awake inside of your dreams. You can be just as present in this inner world. But a lot of the books and a lot of the things out there it just felt tough to sort of have the access into this world. So A Field Guide to Lucid Dreaming, the intention behind it was to create an accessible guide that teaches people not only how to remember their dreams, but how to wake up and become lucid within them. And it sort of has a real playful, like as if you're going to another country. This is a field guide. In this case, you're going to the dream world. So it's all about how to navigate that realm and how things work there. And like you just mentioned, ultimately, how can this practice teach us about ourselves and our waking lives, how we are the dreamers of our waking lives as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you mentioned there, actually, sorry, Thomas, do you have your headphones on? I just heard some feedback.
I do, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah?
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think that was just it being kind of weird. That's all right. Okay, sounds fine. But yes, you mentioned the Field Guide to, A Field Guide to Lucid Dreaming is actually a book that you wrote, and you wrote that, a couple years ago you wrote that?
Oh, wow. Yeah, time is funny. I wrote that maybe 3 years ago now.
Yeah.
And it's up to September, though.
Oh, okay, cool. And it's available on Amazon. So those of you who just want to find it easy, just Google A Field Guide to Lucid Dreaming, and that will bring it up on Amazon, and you'll be able to see it there. But yeah, I mean, first of all, congratulations on writing a book. That's a very cool contribution to consciousness, and I think being able to provide people with practical tips about lucid dreaming is an incredibly valuable thing. And so with that said, let's just sort of like begin to explore that conversation. And I will say, for the people who are listening to the show, those of you who are in the live chat, first of all, thank you for being here. But if you have any questions, just begin to post some of the questions that you guys might have as you're listening to the show into the live chat, or to make it easier for me, just post a message to me on the into the live chat as a private message to Paradigm Shift Radio, and I'll be able to grab it from you there. But if you have any questions that you're curious about, let us know, and we will be opening up the lines later in the show to callers, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. But even just talking about lucid dreaming, so I mean, just in the idea that some people may not even be familiar with lucid dreaming. So again, approaching this as if we're explaining this to someone who is literally just like never heard of anything. How would you explain the concept of lucid dreaming to them?
That's an awesome question. Well, I always try to approach it from a right brain standpoint, because we could say, yeah, it's a dream in which you know you're dreaming. But that makes zero sense to me. I'm always like, okay, that's a tough thing to wrap my head around. So it's a dream in which I know I'm dreaming. But on a right brain experiential standpoint, it's like, have you ever had that dream where something happens? There's a trigger, or maybe you're just flooded with an awareness, and it occurs to you that, wait a second, in this moment right now, I'm fully in a dream. You have this self-realization, this self-reflective awareness that you're inside of a dream at that moment. That would be a lucid dream. And there's a whole spectrum of lucidity, but just having awareness while in the dream state, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Being aware that you're in that particular dimension or that particular version of reality is one way how I would be able to try and explain like the idea of lucid dreaming. Because I mean, even just the word lucid or lucidity is kind of synonymous with clarity in a sense. So whereas normally when we're in the dream, it seems that by default we sort of have like this fog that is clouding our perception, that is preventing us from sort of, we're there, we're responding, and a lot of our responses are very subconscious, which brings into the whole topic of like the fact that dreams are like a lens into our soul, and it brings things up to the surface that allow us to know about ourselves. And that's, you know, the whole like Gnostic ipsum, know thyself sort of things. Like a man who explores his dreams will be able to explore, like, I think there's a quote there or something like that. Oh yeah, but yeah, something along the lines of, yeah, just exploring your dreams will be able to help you like explore the inner natures of to who you are and everything and so forth like that. But yeah, I mean, just studying the topic of dreams. So I mean, if we can just sort of like put the topic of lucid just off to the side, what do you feel like the process of studying one's dreams can help? Where can that take people? What can that bring into their waking life that will benefit them?
Sleep for me is my spiritual practice. It's something, and I think it's the coziest spiritual practice, because we want to have something that connects us with who we are and to our heart or to our core. And for me, dreaming is the coziest practice. I mean, you get to jump into a bed, you get to have a blanket and a pillow, and you can be just as conscious as you are here now in this inner world where you can receive insight or guidance, healing. I've had so many dreams of not just emotional healing, but actual physical healing, and as this, you said again in the beginning, a bigger picture of who you are and the self-discovery. So dreams in general, yeah, I think it's a huge aspect into knowing who we are.
Yeah, and thanks, shout out to Roscoe in the chat. He just sort of completed that quote I was trying to say, where it's the idea of, if man knows thyself, then you shall know the universe and the gods as well, which is, yeah, that was kind of the one I was trying to touch upon. And yes, like dreams are such an excellent way for us to be able to learn more about ourselves. There's a lot I want to be able to get into and explore, but I'm curious as to like what your own personal experience is with the practices of dreams, like growing up. Like my question, have you, because I mean, not I've heard stories of some people who have like lucid dreamed by default, so to speak, and they didn't realize what it was until later in life. Like, what was your experience like? What was your relationship with dreaming like at a younger age, and how did that influence you today?
It was sort of like that. Dreams have always been really potent in my life. I remember one of the first lucid dreams I had, and I didn't even know what it was called. I had no language for it at that time. I was probably 7 or 8, but I remember this so distinctly. I was flying with some geese. I was flying miles above the earth alongside a flock of geese, and I was so amazed at how realistic everything felt. I could feel the sun against my back or the wind against my face, and it just felt so I was there. And a lot of these dreams kept happening. I remember another one. I walked through the walls of my playroom, and then another one where I was breathing underwater in my backyard pool, and I just didn't have any language to understand anything that was happening. I remember just trying to understand it, trying to explain it, and no, as any parent would do. But I remember just my parents thinking that, I have a very active imagination, as if this is something, I'm just, thinking this or something. But I couldn't understand and explain that I'm fully there and this actually happened, and I'm fully present. So it wasn't until I was a teenager that I got the internet and learned that this is called something that, not only is it called something, but you can practice it, that it's something that can be learned. And that's really when it started happening again a lot, and I got really into it, learning how to induce it and just exploring that whole world.
Yeah, and definitely we're going to get into, again, as I mentioned, like some of the practical tips that we can discuss as to how people can begin and continue to explore this world more so for themselves. One thing in particular about like the lucid dreaming process, just even sort of stepping back a bit, that I'll just sort of bring into this conversation is like, and I've explained this multiple times, and I'll try again, despite my fatigue, so to speak, but maybe that'll influence it in some way or another. But every time I do it, I attempt to do it in a slightly different way. But from my best guess, from my understanding, like when you ask, like, what are dreams, like how do they fit within this picture of like this whole reality, the way how I've always sort of seen it, or not always, but the way how I see it now is this idea that like the dream realm, the dream space, which is commonly referred to as the astral or the astral planes, quite simply is actually closer to where we are from. Like as this whole idea of spiritual beings in human forms, the dream space is actually more where we're from. And every time that we're awake, we sort of like come back into this physical body, which is just like this unique version of reality. And then when we go to sleep, we return to the astral, which is actually more like the default reality. That's like where we are by nature. And it's also the place that we are between lives and after death. And it's, for me, in that sense, it's a very interesting place because like that's where you get into these stories that within dreams you're in this common dimension where you can actually like communicate with people who have passed on, and you can actually like explore these other dimensions and become in contact with like other entities there, and it just really opens up this whole idea. But I think what I'm just emphasizing is the idea that dreaming is not something secondary to this physical reality. Like this physical reality is something secondary to the dream reality. Whoa, I think I just shifted my own paradigm there. Just shifted my pants, man. Oh, jeez.
That's funny. I shifted my pants.
Yeah.
That should be a shirt.
Does that? What do you think? Does that sort of? Does that?
Oh, I love that. I shifted in my pants. I love what you just said, and I want to say this just because I think it can work here in the venue that we are. But I just want to briefly say that it's a more modern idea that dreams are these private, separate experiences happening just in your mind. It's a very much more widely accepted and common understanding in past cultures that dreams take place on a shared and collective place. Whether it's called dream time or the collective unconscious, but that we have access to this non-physical realm or whatever, and that we can visit, other dreamers, people who have passed on, or enlightened masters who have transcended the physical realm, yada yada. But I just wanted to mention that sort of historical standpoint for a second.
Yeah. Yeah, like I'm just reading in the chat here, and one of our friends, K10,
The chat.
yeah, there's a lot of chat. Good shout out to everybody in the chat. Just keep it up. And
I don't see that, but okay. I don't.
Oh, you don't see the chat?
No.
Scroll if you're in the Blog Talk. If for anybody listening, and Thomas as well, if you're listening to this on Blog Talk Radio, scroll down, and you should be able to see the chat there. But I was just gonna say, as you're figuring that out, somebody in the chat, they said like the idea that dreaming, like this whole idea of like understanding dreams is helping us realize our true nature. And I think that's an interesting idea of like what is our true nature, so to speak. And again, like that's where like it's this idea that like this physical reality is just like a part of this experience. So if you're only paying attention to the reality that we're used to, the physical reality, the one where you're sitting and you're walking around and you're touching stuff, like that's only a fraction of this entire experience as not even just a human, but as a spirit, as a soul sort of thing. So for me, it's a simple way to explain to people why they should be interested in dreams, in the sense that if you put attention towards becoming more aware of your dreams, whether or not it's lucidity, and even if it's simply just developing your recall, then it creates this opportunity where you're literally learning. You're a student of the universe, and you're progressing, and you're learning from experiences like 24/7. And even theoretically beyond 24/7, because then it gets into the idea, this is kind of branching off, but the idea that, time doesn't exist the same way it does within the dream realm. And that's the idea that, you could have, as I love when you hear those stories, and some people have had this happen many times before, where even if you're awake in the morning and you hit the snooze button and you fall back asleep for 10 minutes, but then that 10 minutes of sleep ends up feeling like hours within the dream. And that brings up the question, like what is going on there? But I mean, what would you think, Tom? Like Thomas, how would you, if somebody were to ask that, like how would you explain that? The idea of what is going on when time seems to not exist in the same way within the dream realm.
Yeah, I love everything you're saying. Well, time doesn't really even play a factor like it does here in the dream world. So it's just one big internal now. So you can, which is a whole, even here is just one big eternal now, but time in the dream world is instantaneously just one big eternal now. There was one thing I wanted to mention though, before that, damn it. And it was about, what were we just talking about?
Are you asking me what we were just talking about?
Yeah, I want to catch that thought that I was just thinking, because it was...
Yeah, well, I was talking about, like, hitting the snooze button and 10 minutes becoming hours within a dream, and time dilation within the dream. And then before that, I was talking about understanding our true nature and stuff. Is it there yet? Get it, Tom.
Well,
you can grab it.
Really,
grab
yeah.
it.
Grab it.
It's floating away. Huh?
No, that's always it. Yeah, what's really cool though is that just going into the dream world and imagine being there fully present, and here you are, you're fully yourself. I mean, you have full cognition, you have full waking awareness, but you're inside of a dream. And some really interesting things happen at that point. You realize that you're intimately connected to everything around you. You feel it on a real visceral level. Everything feels alive and aware and responsive to you. Even the air itself always feels like rife with consciousness, and it is you. So you have that intimate feeling, and like we're talking about with time, it is this eternal present moment where all time can exist and all space can exist. So a single thought can bring you to a different place or bring something into physical manifestation. It's a lot quicker in that non-physical realm. But what I'm interested in is, what would it look like? Because you were talking about like this bigger picture of who we are, but what would it look like if we were to incorporate dreams and this understanding of our identity into our lives? What would that mean about who we are? Are we now shifting into or accepting a more multidimensional understanding of who we are? Or what would that even look like if we could be fully present here in this physical world, but also fully present in a non-physical and have access to that realm, those realms? It's not just one. So what would that even look like for the human experience? I love that question.
That is a great question, and I agree. Like, that's something that it always seemed that it was possible. You know, like it's something that difficult, perhaps, in the sense that in order for more people to get there, it would take like collective willpower and consistency as a team. But if 10 people listening to this show, like maybe this will come out of this episode where we can create like a separate group of designated dreamers, of people who are collectively like supporting each other through their dream habits and sharing their dream recalls or whatever. But what play with that idea of multiple people being able to meet up on the non-physical planes in the astral to be able to continue to converse. So in that sense, like, we start developing a personality of ourselves as non-physical entities, or something that is like even more authentic as to who we are, and we begin to see it for ourselves by playing that role. But again, I love that idea, and I know it's possible. The idea of, like, for everyone listening to this show, like, all right, tonight let's all get lucid and let's all go meet at like Stonehenge, and we'll chill out there, and we'll have like a paradigm shift open discussion group, and we'll do some meditations in our dreams, and stuff like it's hard to even fathom what that will be, what that could open up and everything like that. But it's real. Like that is within the possibilities. And that is like something that I think is worth striving for. But I mean, is that plausible from your end?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love just lucid dreaming and dreaming in general, because it's not like a dogmatic thing or a philosophy. It's not saying like believe anything at all. It's saying here you have access to this rich inner world, and you can know through direct experience, through your own experience, that you're much, much more than just a physical being. And that's awesome. And having a community like we're discussing right now is, I just also want to emphasize that this dream work, it takes so much courage, and anyone even listening to this call, and to be interested in your dreams, and to be interested in yourself, and to dive into your unconscious or your subconscious, it takes so much courage, and it takes so much strength to face things of yourself and to actually do the work on yourself first. You got to drop your hat to everybody who's even remotely interested in it, because these are people they have so much heart and so much strength. That's why we do it together, because we know it takes support, and it takes this courage, and we're here to support each other. So I love that.
For sure. Yeah. And I think another thing that I even just want to go back to is the idea that, because I kind of, in the midst of like all my excitement and stuff like that, I was thinking it, but I didn't say it. But the idea of like what is there that a relationship with the dream world can teach us about this reality? And I think one of the most fundamental things that it can teach us is an understanding of how our thoughts create reality. And that's something that more people are opening up to, this idea that like even within this waking state, we hear these ideas of our thoughts like emitting vibrations, creating ripples, and changing the structure of reality around us. You get into the experiments with water, people are more familiar with this, cymatics, et cetera. But within a dream, you get to experience this firsthand. And that's where, if you want to fly, you can fly. If you want to create like an apple in your hand, you can do that. If you want to like do Dragon Ball Z stuff, you can do that. There's difficulties and more advanced stuff as you continue to explore more into it. But again, just the simple emphasis is the idea that this waking life, this waking life is just another version of the dream state. And the dream state is actually like the way I perceive it, is actually like more what reality is like by default. Like in the beginning, there was the dream. There was the dream space, the dream time. It's always been like this cloudy, nebulous place where consciousness has always been etheric. And this physical reality was something that came over time and time and time as the spirals continued to crystallize in on themselves to create this illusion of matter. So this like when you think about it in that way, like this physical reality is actually like, you know, like a later version of it. It literally is like the Matrix in a sense, you know. It's like this simulated reality specifically created so that we can have these beautiful, unique experiences of waking up in the day, going to sleep at night, waking up the next day, and continuing this progressive storyline where we create an identity for ourselves. We give a name to this vehicle. We live our lives. We fall in love and we die and we do it again, sort of thing. But within all of this, we're still in we're still within the reality where we can create with our thoughts. Like the rules within the dream still apply to the rules within this reality, but they just take a little bit more time, or they just don't appear as apparent to our sort of expectations of it. But again, like I'm sure Tom, you have something to say on that. Just the idea of how our thoughts create reality and how this is made apparent to us through our exploration of the dreams.
Dude, I love everything you say. It's awesome. And I just want to commend you also. When I met you at the Lucidity Festival, you're someone who's so committed, and I think that's the word. You were there when I met you. You were doing your thing, and you're so like focused and doing it, while other people might be, I don't know, enjoying themselves. You're pushing through and asking questions, and I love that, man. It's so cool.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah, but that's also what I was so fascinated with in the beginning, and still what drives me in my lucid dreaming practice. Every time I'm lucid, this is what drives my whole practice. Is I remember thinking at a teenage age that if I could figure things out, if I could understand how this dream world worked, if I could figure out how this reality works and how I'm creating the dream, perhaps I could figure out how my waking world works and how I'm creating my waking life and my reality. And it is that, yes, totally, like your thoughts and your emotions instantly affect the world around you. They're actively shaping your experience. So, you know, a focused thought could take you anywhere, or a concentrated intention could create anything. If you think someone is going to be behind that building and is going to be chasing you down, chances are that's going to happen, or whatever you can imagine. But it's even more than that. I think it's more than just your thoughts. And even here in the physical world, it's more than just your thoughts. Your thoughts are like the blueprint that pluck out of the infinite possibilities, some sort of structure. And I wanted to mention this before in the beginning of the show. You were talking about how we're spirit and our true origin and whatnot. I had this beautiful dream beautiful lucid dream in which, is it William H. Macy or is it Edward H. Macy? He's an actor. He's on.
Right.
I don't know. This guy was there, and I became lucid because he's there, and I'm like, what is he doing here? And I walk out onto this balcony, and I see this beautiful, huge whale made of light, and the whale says to me, non-verbally, always telepathic. It says, all matter has its origin in spirit, and just from a visceral level of understanding what that meant, I started bawling and crying. And William H. Macy, or whoever that actor is,
is William, yeah.
William, he hugged me so much. He was such a nice dude in the dream. But you know, it occurred to me one time in like a liminal state meditation that I was doing, that our chakras, you know, we call our root chakra like our base chakra, as if it's at the bottom of our being, but our root chakra is also, if not our crown chakra, that we come from spirit, that our true origin is, and we visit there every night in dreams, that we come from spirit. And when we want to create something here into physical form and manifest it into reality, it's got to go through that process of each chakra of going down. You know, first you pluck out of the infinite possibilities, you see something, so now you're activating your third eye, and then you start speaking about it. You start talking to people about, hey, I have this idea that I want to create, and this is part of the giving it form and creating it. But it's this twofold process. It's not, I just love that we might shift our root chakra, that we are spirit, and to know ourselves. Dreams are a great way to actually know what that actually means, that you're not just a physical being, that you're spirit. And ultimately the goal of the great work is to bring spirit here and to embody it and to create a world where spirit can remember itself as infinite and create that sacred earth here.
Nice. For sure. Yeah, well said, man. I like that. I like that. Yeah, like we're like laying down the path for more spirit to come into this space, because this can be a very unforgiving reality, this whole dream space and things like that. Well, maybe, I don't know, maybe not, maybe unforgiving might not be the word, but it can be very strenuous, without a doubt, and through that strain it can create a lot of situations where spirit has difficulty seeing through the Maya, seeing through the illusion, so to speak. But that just means that, yes, like through the work that we're doing, through these conversations that we're having, we're creating more space for spirit to be able to say, like, wait a second, like, why does this sound so familiar? Like this is this is something that makes sense to me, and yet no one's ever told it to me before, sort of thing. And one thing you said, and I'll touch upon this, and then let's move into more of like the practical side of things and get people some tips and tricks and how they can get involved with the dream exploration process further for themselves, and even just maybe examples of some of the things, whether it be personal or whatever, that might happen in a dream. But one of the things I was just going to touch upon, and excuse me if I've mentioned this on a past episode or whatever, but it's a recent thought that's come to mind for me, and it's a thought that we are like ambassadors for etheric ideas. Like, we are ambassadors for the spirit, kind of going on what we were just saying, but it's this idea that, like, anything, like you said, anything that can exist begins in the spirit, begins in the astral planes first. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the astral planes, and it can't manifest into this reality. Some of it can't manifest into this reality all by itself. It needs our assistance as physical beings in order to make its way into this reality. So that could be something as simple as like a song or a piece of art, like a painting, like that's where if people meditate and they'll have a vision, they'll like catch that vision coming through their mind and be like, oh my God, that was beautiful. Like, I have to create that. The fact that it even passed through their mind in the first place was almost like the idea, the identity of the idea itself saying, like, hey, human, like, can you help me? Can you help me, like, come into this reality so I can share my vibration and help other people see the beauty of this reality? And then that's where we have to choose. We have to be a conscious ambassador, so to speak, to say, like, yes, I will bring that idea into this reality. And that's where it's a sense of, like, duty that we have as like cosmic citizens. And that's where I think through the dream exploration process, it is literally a step forward towards becoming like a cosmic citizen. Like, a cosmic citizen is a person who is more in line with their duty to be able to, like, just, I mean, I don't know, maybe that's something I'm still trying to figure out, but I think you got the gist of what I was saying there, hopefully.
Totally. Oh, absolutely. I like the ambassador too. Ultimately, we want to. All this inner work is so that we're more free internally, and being more free allows us to be a vessel through which spirit can just create and know itself here physically. So, all this inner work with dream work, it's cleaning your room. It's doing like a spring cleaning. It's you're going in and you're facing those limitations, those fears. And that's why I say it takes so much courage. And the dreamers who are doing it are not just doing it for themselves. It's bigger than that. And I commend all people doing it. It's awesome.
Awesome. Cool, man. All right, so just kind of stepping back, I got a couple people with questions and stuff, but we'll get to those a little bit later. And we're almost at the top of the hour of the show, but that's okay, because we'll just focus in on one thing at a time. But yeah, just in the terms of practical tips and everything like that, in theme with the field guide towards lucid dreaming, from now at this point, we've talked about lucid dreaming. People who might not be familiar with it, hopefully we've garnered their interest, and now we want to be able to give them some direction towards how they can start involving more of their attention towards the dream process themselves. So again, just as if no one has ever really been opened up to this information before, what would be amongst the first things that you would introduce to them that would help them develop their dream exploration process?
I would say, before anything, just to bring back to like your own experience. So you go to sleep, you have some dreams, you wake up in the morning and you're like, okay, I can remember these bits and pieces, these fragments of things, and sometimes they're absolutely crazy. You have no idea what they mean. And they could seem, I don't know, maybe sometimes they could seem foggy or wispy. That's often our relationship with them. And we think, okay, well, that's what a dream is. And that's, I think, why culturally we don't like them, or we don't think that they're important, because we're like, why would I have to remember these random fragmented bits of nonsense? But the point is that nonsense that you remember, that bits and fragments, that's not the dream itself. That's just the memory of the dream. Mm-hmm. The dream itself has a present moment, just as rich and vivid as our waking life. It's like, I always make this analogy of like, it's like you trying to remember what you did 2 Saturdays ago. If we were here, or maybe 2 Sundays ago, you're like, okay, I remember I was doing that. The memories can seem fragmented, wispy. They can seem just like that, memories. But the moment you had 2 Sundays ago was rich. It was a present moment, just as real as anything else. So our dreams have a present moment, and we can awaken to that present moment and be fully present while we're dreaming. And that's really the goal we're trying to talk about. The first tip I would say, if you want to remember your dreams, or if you want to become lucid within them, is to begin looking. Just that alone. And there's an exercise a friend of mine taught me that I love, and I'll do it now. She asks everyone to close their eyes, and when you open your eyes, you're going to look around your room or wherever you are listening to this at, and you're going to try to find everything that's red. You're just going to look around and just notice everything that's red in the room. So you open your eyes and you see a cup or a glass, you see a carpet or something that's red. And now close your eyes again, and now try to imagine, or in your mind's eye, tell me what's green or blue in the room. And it's often hard to even imagine anything because you were looking for red. And the whole point about that is that whatever we're looking for, wherever our awareness goes, is what creates our reality. So if you want to dream, if you want to know your dreams, then go to bed actively looking for them. Go to bed actively expecting that you'll have them, because you are. And just get curious. That's the first step I would always say. Is just get curious and begin looking for them. Make room for them.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I've always had this idea that, when we're making the choices to invest attention towards our dreams, the other side of the universe recognizes that, and it sort of begins to meet us halfway. There's almost like some sort of gatekeeper that's just like, oh, like this person wants to know more? Okay, like let's begin to start showing them more. But if somebody's just like totally passive about their dreams, then you're right. They'll just continue to have that fog and things like that. So yeah, it's kind of giving yourself permission to be curious and to start looking more into your dreams. And that you're right, like that is something that will begin to affect the memories, the results that the dreams will give back to you.
Oh yeah. Cool. Then they start, once you begin looking and making time for them. And what by that I mean, in the morning, try to wake up ideally without an alarm clock. Try to wake up naturally. Even if you have an alarm clock, that's totally okay. I mean, totally okay. So, but you want to wake up motionlessly. You want to wake up slowly. You want to recall the dream you were just in. If you can't remember anything, switch to a different position. Oftentimes, it's easier to recall the dream that you had in the position in which you had it. So, slowly moving to your side or each side can actually unlock memories of the dream. So that's always good. And obviously, you're writing these things down. And this is, it sucks. I'm still always like, it does suck to write your dreams down, especially when you're so tired, but it's so awesome. And something that I just bite the bullet and do in the middle of the night. I even just write down some keywords, and I'll expand later just because that'll trigger some memories. But I always imagine it like it's this inner, like a SparkNotes version of your, like you're going on this inner journey, and this is like the SparkNotes of this other realm that you're going to. So, making it fun and having a journal that you write things down, even if it's just keywords in the middle of the night. But making that a practice of keeping a dream journal. I mean, this is also a great practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the dream journal has always been something that I usually provide as like one of the first practical tips for people. And I know a lot of people maybe tired of hearing that, those of you who have been involved with interest in dream exploration, but it's such a fundamental thing, because the dream memory, like the memory involved, like it's like a muscle, you know. So if you don't use it, you lose it, sort of thing. And that's where it requires this consistency. And I'm sure we've noticed that, those of us who have sort of gone through processes of like writing down our dreams and then not writing down our dreams and then noticing that it's difficult to get back into it. So it's the consistency within this practice that really, really makes a huge, huge difference, for sure.
I would say, yeah. And if we could make it in a fun way, always like accessible and fun, that would be ideal. One practice that I always do, and this is just me, obviously this is, I don't say that all practices would work, just this is something I do. I always like to sit. I don't know about you, but if I don't sit, and I call it sitting, I don't know if I would call it meditating, but if I don't sit every day, I get a little crazy. I mean, I'm already crazy to begin with, but do you have a practice, something that quiets your mind and gets you into either a receptive state or a state where you're intimately connected to your core, which is surrounded and by this permeating love? Do you have a practice?
Sorry, you're asking me specifically?
Yeah, my practice is different. I'm just curious about yours.
I mean, yeah, usually it could be something where it's like sitting down in stillness out in nature. I mean, it could be something like a specific type of meditation. Oftentimes, I mean, to be honest, I haven't done it in a while, just because like it hasn't. Well, I'll explain what it is. A lot of you are familiar with this, but I'll actually do like a meditation where I sit on top of one of those big exercise balls, and I'll like balance on top of one, which is a very interesting thing, because like you're developing the core balance within your body, but then you like let go of that and it sort of becomes automated, and then you get into the focus of like the open-eyed meditation. But it's like really super cool. But
that's really interesting.
I would encourage that for other people. And then I usually also do it while looking into a mirror too. So it's like eye gazing at the same time, plus meditation, plus balancing on the exercise ball. And yeah, that's like one way how to. And I've explained this before, but I'm pretty sure when I do that, it's like a method towards naturally releasing DMT within the body. Because like when I do that, and if I'm in the zone, I'll like start to have sort of visionary sight that looks similar to DMT. So if anybody wants to have natural DMT experiences, learn how to meditate on an exercise ball while looking in the mirror. There you go.
That is so interesting. Wow. Holy crap. I'm going to actually give that a go.
Give it a shot, yeah.
Well, one thing I love in my practice is just, sitting. And I call it sitting because it's so easy. All I'm doing, maybe I'll light a candle, but whatever. That I'm trying to do is get past my thoughts and my monkey brain and let that quiet down for a little bit. And I'm trying to get to that liminal state, that state right between waking and sleeping, that twilight zone, Rod Serling would call it, or the edge of sleep. That moment you're still fully awake, you're still fully present, but your body is so relaxed and you're in a position that you don't have any extraneous thoughts. And for me, that might take, I might jump right into it, or it might take me an hour to get into it, and it's exhausting to go through so many of, even just to give myself that time to sit and then to have to listen to all the thoughts. Sometimes it does take that time, and that's really why it's called work. But once you get into it, you feel so expanded, you feel so present and intimately connected to this permeating field that is, it's everything. It's alive and it's part of you, just like in the dream world. But it's that liminal state. It's that right between waking and sleep, and I love that as a practice too. To try to stay there as long as you can, because that's a really interesting state, that twilight zone.
Yeah.
You can even do it while you're sleeping or while you're laying down.
Yeah. That's a good practical tip as well for people with the whole dreaming exploration process, is to be able to practice meditation before you go to bed, and to actually use your meditation to sort of empty your mind of things that may have gathered up from your daily activity. So you might have you might have like had like an argument with a friend earlier in the day, and then you may actually find that argument actually like seeps its way in towards your dreams. So one way to sort of prevent that from happening and to sort of like clear the slate to allow more authentic information to come into the dream, like something more vivid or you know, psychedelic or whatever, is to be able to like spend time meditating and to be able to like let go of thoughts that you may be carrying with you, and just being able to, another very practical tip is to do a retrospective meditation. So at the end of the day, spend time meditating and literally take the moment to go back through your day all the way up to the morning and think about everything you did as a practice, and just to even see how much you can remember in the first place. But then through doing that process, again, you sort of clear that slate, so then you can go into the dream and be able to receive what it's ready to offer you, instead of just, because a lot of people in today's society, they'll say that, be like, oh, my dreams are just like me at work or me at school sort of thing. And I think that's because it's almost like if there's like a metaphor for a computer, it'd almost be like clearing out your cache sort of thing, or you know, clearing out the cookies in your computer folder to allow like a new operating program to come into it, instead of just running the default thing that it already has like built up there. If that makes sense. But yeah, retrospective meditation at the end of the day is a very practical tip I would put there.
No, that's great. I just want to note, Rebecca Bailey says that the Twilight Zone sucks. I don't know what that means. The Twilight Zone state, she hates it, and I don't know. What's there to hate about that? That's a beautiful state.
I'd be interested. Yeah, Rebecca, just type a response into the comments if you'd like to expand more on that. But yeah, like that. Yeah, that's an interesting. I mean, like when you say the Twilight Zone state, like you're just sort of saying, yeah, like that's what you're saying is like that meditative state where you're not fully asleep, but you're not fully awake. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, I often do it laying down. So it's sort of, but I don't do it on my bed because I don't want to. That helps me not fully fall asleep. But maybe I'll lay down and after sitting for a little bit, and I'll lay down and I'll try to get into that liminal state, and it is that state right between, on the edge of sleep, right between waking and sleeping. And you'll know when it comes, because you'll start feeling so cozy and relaxed. And this is why I love the practice so much too. Is it's not requiring you to maybe sit in a lotus position, in an uncomfortable position. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's requiring you to lay down and get so cozy that you're so relaxed, your body's okay, you're fully safe in this present moment. And you just monitor your thoughts until you hit that. You'll know when it hits. It'll, if you want to be aware of it, it'll be a place. Can you still hear me? Hello?
Yes, sorry, I can still hear you.
Sorry, I
We're
felt
good.
like I was muted. But it'll be a place, it'll be a very expansive place. You'll sort of lose touch with your body. You won't really know where you are in a physical sense. But it's a great place I use it for two things, whether it's asking for something, whether I'm almost in that state as a receptive, like, I don't know, like I'm asking a question, I'm waiting for a receptive answer. So maybe it's a question about my life and I need some guidance. It's a great place to pose those questions, but it's also a great place to direct your focus or your will towards creating something. So if you want to make something in your life, that liminal state, that place where you're fully expanded, you're fully yourself, that's a great place to play with, and maybe that's where you're imagining the creation you're going to have, or the job you're going to have, or whatever it is. I think that's a really magical state that we can get into.
Yeah. That's it's interesting. Yeah, because there is like sort of a visceral sensation with that state. Those who are sort of familiar with like the meditation practice, where you can sort of you become familiar with this state of, you can even just say it's a place of calmness, a place of peace. But oftentimes, if you're meditating, it will take you a few moments to get there. But I think what's interesting is that the more you practice meditation, the more effectively that you'll be able to return to the space that you create for yourself. And yeah, there is sort of like this visceral feeling to it. That's definitely really interesting. Yeah, and then just sort of playing around with your imagination in that state can sort of be like a training ground for being able to play with your imagination within the dream state as well. That's one way I would look at it. So just so continuing along the idea of just practical tips and everything like that. So if people want to work towards becoming lucid in their dream, one of the things that they'll often hear about is the idea of doing reality checks and using those as a trigger to realize that they're lucid within their dream and basically, or I'll just pass it off to you, but because I'm sure you can explain that quite well. But yeah, Thomas, if you just want to explain the concept of reality checks and maybe just some examples and how those can help you become lucid within the dream.
Totally. I used reality checks a lot when I was learning how to lucid dream at the beginning, and the idea was simple. I would carry around some sort of unique object, or it didn't really even have to be a totem or an object, but I would stop whether I felt that object or maybe a phone rings, whatever trigger happens, you would stop for a moment and become fully present, and you would ask yourself, am I dreaming in this moment? And not just ask that question, but really prove to yourself, am I dreaming? And you feel like a crazy person, and I totally did doing these things, because you're like, of course I'm awake, obviously. But when you're dreaming, you think you're awake too, and you're going through the scenarios. So the idea is that you're training yourself to have that self-reflective awareness. Stop for a moment and ask yourself that crude question, am I dreaming in this moment? And that habit will carry over into your dream. And I did it blindly. I was like, you know what? People say this is a technique. I'm just going to do it because I've had experience with this lucid dreaming, and I want to just really master it. So I did it, and it felt weird doing it, and it always does. So if you feel weird, it's okay. But that moment that it actually works, that something happens and you stop for a moment, you ask yourself, am I dreaming? I remember one dream that it fully worked. I stood up. I was just in my bedroom, and I was standing, and it was nighttime, and I was like, what am I doing? Did I just go to the bathroom? Like, did I get up and I just didn't realize? And I stopped and I asked, am I dreaming? And I jumped to test it. Usually you're trying to test it in some way, whether it's holding your nose and trying to breathe your finger through your hand, or I don't know. In my case, this was jumping. And I jumped, and I floated to the ceiling, and my hands went through the top of the roof. And it was that moment where it was like, all right, jackpot. Like, I'm in, here I go. Like, so it's an awesome moment when it actually does happen, and it will. So a reality check is you're trying to create a habit in the waking world of asking, am I dreaming? And that habit will trickle into your dreams.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, yeah, definitely. What would be some more examples of some reality checks, and even just encouraging people to get creative and to be able to create reality checks for themselves?
I really liked, personally, for me, I really liked holding a totem, some sort of object, and this object changed throughout my life, but it could be anything. It could be an amulet or something that will represent lucidity to you. And anytime you feel it, or, I don't know, I would try to put it in your pocket, because if it's on your neck or something, you might just get used to it, and that doesn't really work. But anytime I would reach into my pocket and I would feel it, that would be my trigger to stop and sort of self-evaluate where I'm at. So I really love that. But you could do it with anything. Every time the phone rings, every time you see a dog, every time you walk through a doorway. You really got to be consistent with it. But that's why I love having a totem in my pocket.
Yeah, and again, like, the word consistency comes up, and I think that's the big thing, because, when we think about this, we're trying to create a program within our mind. We are literally programming, like, how our brain works, and the way that we implement that program is through repetition, is through that consistency, and through being able to so I mean, actually, I just want to backstep. So, like, using your example of a totem and something in your pocket, are you implying the idea that, like, within your dream at some point you would reach your hand into your pocket and find the totem there? Would that happen, or, like, what would be the case?
Really.
Like, because it wouldn't always be there.
Yeah, sometimes, but no, it would be like just that question, just that asking. I might reach into my pocket, I don't know, average of, I don't know, maybe say 10 times. But every time I would reach in, I would ask that question. And that is really the goal of it, is asking that question, however that trigger will be set up for you. But in the dream world, it would be just me stopping and asking that question on a more consistent basis.
Okay. Right,
I don't
right,
think I've ever had a where I actually reached into my pocket and felt my... Actually, no, I did. But very rarely. I would say it just sort of created the habit of asking the question, am I dreaming?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And again, like, that's like the really interesting part about the whole dream space. As you mentioned, just reiterating it, but it's the idea that, like, when we're dreaming, we don't realize we're dreaming. We are convinced that we are awake. Tom, I've got some extra feedback and fuzz coming through your end. I don't know if you changed anything. Oh, there. Okay, I think it's okay now. Oh, there. Okay. Oh, whoa. Okay, now I can hear myself somehow. What is going on here? Oh my God, the Matrix! It's imploding in on itself. Brace yourself, boys and girls. It's okay. But what I was gonna say though, yeah. So this idea that, like, within the dream, we are convinced that we are awake. Like, that is just like such a fascinating idea, but that is like also the part of the process that allows us to learn in such unique and amazing ways, because, like, when we are convinced that we're convinced that we're not dreaming, then we'll respond in a way that will be honest to who we are. And that's where you get into the idea that, like, even if you're not lucid, if you can at least recall your dreams, there's still a lot that you can learn from them. Because as an example, you might go into a dream and you might go into a scenario where you end up, like, helping out a friend. You might end up, like, being the hero in your dream. But in the same case, you may end up having a dream where you do something really weird or really disgusting or, like, really mean. You know, you might, like, do something that when you wake up, you'll have a feeling about it. And so then people always say, you know, like, they're asking about, like, what the symbolism in dreams means and this and that and this and that. I think, to simplify it, I think rather than trying to decode the symbolism of your dream, focus on how the dream made you feel. And I think through that, if you wake up from a dream and you do something in a dream where it's like, say you got in a fight with your friend in a dream, or, you know, you said, like, oh, I think you're really stupid or something, and then you wake up and you're just like, wow, like, why did I say that? Like, that really felt wrong for me. Like, that didn't feel good. So then through that, you have the opportunity to learn from that experience and prevent it from needing to occur within this waking state. So, I mean, the dream space is very valuable in the sense that it's like this simulation where we can go through these experiences, learn how we would respond within a scenario, and then be able to decide whether or not that's something that is needed to repeat within this waking state. And if not, thank goodness it happened in the dream state, because then we were still able to learn from it, and we were still able to see more of ourselves. And like I said, you can see amazing parts of yourself within dreams, and you can also see, like, really, really dark parts of yourself within your dreams. But both of those are equally important to being able to learn more about who you are and who you are not. So yeah, that was, Tom, if you have any thoughts on that, I think, yeah.
No, dude, you're so wise. I love it. I vibe with what you say and how you say it. It's really cool. But absolutely, we're constantly scouting ahead our future or projecting into our past to learn from that. And ultimately, it's trying to bring us back into awareness of who we are in this moment and to bring us to our highest expression. So, yeah, to be aware of them. You know, it's really funny in other cultures, they would... the Iroquois, for example, if I had a bad dream about you, I would be required to talk about it to you. I would have to actually say it to you, and we would have to resolve it here in the waking world. That would mean that even though it was my dream, there is something that needs healing between you and I. That if I'm having a negative dream about you, that I need to heal it on some level between us. So it would be a practice for us to do this here and now. And, you know, this could just be, say you have a dream about your brother or something, and you give him a call and you say, I had this weird dream. You might bring up, oftentimes enough, they say something that it's like, wow, I'm so glad I actually did reach out.
Yeah.
So I would just encourage people and don't tell people your whole dream. You know, being a dream author, people tell me so many dreams. If you just please, if you can't say it in 60 seconds, it's really fucking frustrating to hear. But you know, if you have a dream about your brother, maybe reach out to him and say, "Hey, buddy, you know, I have this dream about you. Keep it kind of short." But I guarantee you, something of value will come from that, whether it's between the two of you or something internally that you realize about the situation and yourself. But just on a tip factor, telling people your dreams, people will turn off a little bit. Keep them short, keep them concise. You can tell what dreams are.
What was that last part?
I said you can tell where my pet peeves are. Just you know, how many dreams I hear where I'm like, that's so awesome, that's so cool. Could you keep it under 10 minutes next time?
Right. Yeah, just being able to like crystallize and simplify it for sure. Yeah. So, just kind of going back to some of the practical tips, and even just going back to the reality checks. What other reality checks do you have? Because I mean, a couple that I can think of. One as an example would be to when you walk into a room, when you're awake, when you're in your waking state, to walk into a room, and maybe every time you walk through a doorway, look up at the ceiling and just observe the fact that there's a ceiling there. Because oftentimes within a dream state, if you go into a place and you look up, you'll notice that there won't be a ceiling, which will cause you to sort of be like, that's weird, and be like, oh, wait, I'm in a dream. And again, it brings into that question. It brings into that questioning of reality, which is a really interesting moment where there's that moment where you're like unconscious and then you become conscious. And all it takes is a simple question to sort of like turn that around, and where it becomes blatantly apparent that you're in a dream. But up until that point, you're so convinced that you're awake and everything like that. There's a couple other things I was just going to mention on the fact that why aren't there ceilings in a dream, which is a very interesting thing. And that's almost a separate topic, but I'll just see if I can explain super quick. But from my understanding, it's this idea that reality is very resourceful. And sort of like in the sense of how a computer video game renders information that the character is looking at, it doesn't need to render information that is behind the character. So in the same sense that in a dream, if you're fixed on the aspects of the room, there's no need for the reality of the dream to create a ceiling. And then so suddenly, like when you look up, it's almost as if this is like some sort of computer simulation. It's just like, oh crap, like he's looking up. Did anybody put in a ceiling? I didn't add a ceiling. And be like, oh crap. And then, you know, so it's like as if there's some sort of higher daemon that's involved with like creating the reality. And I'm just kind of talking to myself and as I'm saying this, but it's super interesting in the sense of like where is this information that is entering into our dreams coming from? Is it purely from within ourselves, or is some of it like coming from the higher aspects of reality? And then it just brings into the question that, you know, like what is, like, I don't know. I'm just gonna take a break for a second. But yeah, let's just step back to the reality checks. What other reality checks would you be able to provide for people?
I love that we walk through doors and we look at ceilings. Like, dreamers are the weirdest people, and we just like, you know, we're trying to like assimilate into reality. We're like, yeah, every time I walk through a door, I just look at the ceiling. Yeah. But you know, ultimately, anything you do, you're trying to become fully present, and I think that's never a bad thing to do. You're trying to become fully present in the moment, and to understand the reality you're in. That's all that it's trying to do. So you could look at your hands to do that and see if there's any inconsistencies, or you could look just if you could do anything, just become fully present, whether that is sparked by your phone ringing or walking through a doorway or feeling something in your pocket. If you can be fully present and do that often on a consistent basis, that is the goal, because ultimately it's not about sleeping here. We're trying to wake up, and it's about becoming present, not just in our waking lives, but in our dream lives. And these two are, you know, two aspects of the same whole. So if you can become present, no matter what trigger you're using, whether it's looking at a clock or, I don't know, light switch I think people use. I've never done that
Right.
one, but there are tons of them. Anytime you really do anything, just stop and pause for a moment. Even, you know what I loved is anytime I feel a breeze, it's just my own personal thing, but I feel a really nice breeze and I stop and I become fully present, and it's a really cozy moment, and I feel so good. And that just helps me, obviously I'd have to get out more to make it consistent, but just anything where you can be fully present, you're doing the practice of being lucid here, which will obviously trickle over and carry into your dreams.
Yeah, exactly. It is. It's about mindful awareness. I mean, breaking it down, like the dream journal, super awesome tip. Meditation, also very useful within like leading over to not being overwhelmed when you wake up within a dream. So that's where like meditation can develop that calmness. And then yes, conscious awareness within the present moment. And part of that is like through the reality checks, even something simply as connecting with your breath, or like Thomas was saying, like feeling the breeze and things like that. Just a couple other reality checks, and then we'll just sort of segue this into other parts of the conversation. One simple one that you can do is try pulling your finger. So what you do is that, like, within this waking life, maybe you have an alarm on your clock, if that helps or whatever, or just do it casually throughout the day, but just grab your index finger and try pulling on it. And the intention here is to see whether or not it will stretch. But also the trick, because this is a subtle difference, and I think some people sort of miss this when it comes to reality checks, so I'll just emphasize this. The trick is that you're not just pulling your finger to see whether or not it will stretch. You're pulling your finger with the intention of making it stretch. So the difference there is that if you're just pulling your finger just for the sake of like to check that you're still in the waking life, then that means that you're not expecting it to stretch, which means that if you're in a dream and you pull your finger, there's the possibility that it won't stretch because you're not expecting it to, therefore it will just do what you're used to. So you want to pull your finger within this waking life with the idea of like stretching it out. Because again, like this reality, the physical reality that we exist in right now is just one version of this reality, but in the dream state, the physical laws don't exist in the same way. Things are more etheric. Things can be pulled around, they can be stretched. So like within the dream state, you'll pull your finger, it'll stretch, and then you'll be like, whoa, that's really weird. Wait a second, it's because I'm dreaming. So again, it wakes up. And in the same way, apply that same concept to doing like the jump reality check, where some people say if you jump up, and to check if you're going to fly away, really jump up with the intention of flying away. So kind of like Peter Pan style, where it's like, if you think you can fly, you can fly. So don't just jump with the expectation of falling back down. Every time you jump, check to see, like intend to fly. And then when you do it in a dream, you will fly, because that's like the whole like thoughts create reality, which is what I want to segue into next. Is the idea of like what things can we do when we become lucid in a dream? And I was even going to ask Thomas, like with some.
You're doing that. Sorry.
What's that?
Yeah. That's just really funny. That's exactly where I was hoping you would go with it, and now you're going there. So it's interesting.
Of course. So I was actually gonna ask you, Thomas, and I apologize because we've been well past the hour, the top of the hour, and I still haven't talked about the shift button. So I'll do that in a second. But I want to ask Thomas after this. So I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna ask him. But I want to ask you if you can explain the most recent lucid dream that you had in 60 seconds or less. And that's where. So I'll give you like a moment to think about that. And in the meantime, let me just bring people up to speed on the opportunity to win some free shift buttons that we do here with every episode of Paradigm Shift Radio. So very simple. I don't want to spend too much time on this. Those of you familiar with Paradigm Shift Radio, you know that we have the shift buttons, and the shift buttons can be found at paradigmshiftcentral.com/buttons. They're super awesome buttons that you can wear on your shirts and on your backpacks that have conscious symbolism on them and can be used to give as gifts. They have the website for Paradigm Shift Central and Paradigm Shift Radio on the rim of the button, and they're amazing things that can be used to evoke synchronicity and build community, and we want to be able to provide those for you guys. And you can win some by sending a message to facebook.com/Paradigm Shift Radio and just let us know that you're tuned into the show, and that you want to be entered into the button draw. And even if you're listening to the show after it's live, send us a message anyways, and we'll enter you into next week's draw. And that's one way how you can do that. And again, you can order them online at any time, and the funds raised from that help support the community. And I will say that, of course, if you enjoy this show, please consider signing up as a monthly supporter for Paradigm Shift Radio for only a couple dollars a month. That's what helps us be able to provide the shift buttons for people on a regular basis. And you can find the community tip jar through the facebook.com/Paradigm Shift Radio website. And also you can find the exact same links at paradigmshiftcentral.com/donate. So thank you to everybody who is signed up as a contributor. And of course, just consider that if you enjoy the show, if you enjoy the free content that we're putting out there, and you want to support the ongoing dedicated production of the show that I personally am involved with producing and hosting and all that awesome stuff. So thank you to everyone. And yeah, you guys got the links for that. So, but moving on, we'll do the raffle draw for that shift button stuff within the last few minutes of the show. So enter that now if you want to get into that draw. But again, so Thomas, just segueing that, what are some of the things that we can do within the Lucid Dream was where we're going to take this conversation. But as I said, can you share for us, if you're able to, the most recent Lucid Dream, or maybe just a good story of a Lucid Dream that you had as an example of some things that could be done?
I think different things, because my last Lucid Dream was I find myself often, at least lately, becoming lucid and either in front of or seeking out people I know, people that I'm friends with, and helping them, even if I'm not actively in the dream and they know I'm there. I'm helping them understand the dream world. And the last lucid dream I had, I'll just briefly share. I became lucid and I was in front of my friend, and he didn't know I was there, and I presented myself to him and I said, we're going to learn how to fly, and I taught him how to fly, and I was flying on my back and taught him how to go through a glass window. That's more, it seems to be something that's more common, at least lately, but if you want me to share something interesting, I guess I would choose a different dream than that one, because I'm just flying on my back and sort of holding space for him to I don't know. I get lucid, and I don't often want to change anything. If I have something I want to know or guidance in my life, I mean, when I'm lucid, that's a perfect opportunity for it. But lately, it's been just being present and helping people acclimate to the dream world and understand it in a way, they're safe and I'm there for them. Which isn't as exciting as as maybe you're hoping, but
well, that is an interesting thing, because what I was, if you don't mind me just segueing or just going off that, branching off that, do you think that when you're talking to people in the dream, do you think, based on your understanding, that those are actually like the spirit of your friends, or are they just the projection from your mind of your friends?
I think both. It's so fucking weird, isn't it? I think it's both. I mean, totally. It's absolutely me, but on a level where even in this waking life, you're me, and everyone who's listening is part of me. We're all the same expression or different expressions of the same thing. So we're all one thing. Absolutely, we are all connected on a consciousness level. And I think the same is true in dreams. I think it's interesting. When I'm fully lucid, I can tell when there's someone who's a projection and not. Sometimes I can't. Sometimes I ask or at least direct a dream to show me. But in this case, it was him, and it was dreaming. And it sounds weird, but I was just I interacted with him briefly, showed him a little bit something, and then I just stepped back and sort of remained lucid while he was totally enjoying what he's doing. I was there, I guess, holding space for him, letting him have a ball. But there's other dreams that captivate.
Cool. You're sort of breaking up there a little bit, just letting you know. But we got it'll fix itself. But yeah, I was going to ask, have you had many people come up and say to you, like, hey, you were in my dream and you were like helping me out and stuff like that? Has that come up much for you?
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, which is weird when I don't remember it. I'm like, oh, okay, so there are parts of myself that I need to be more conscious of because I'm obviously other places that I want to be aware of. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had similar experiences multiple times where people will say to me, people who I haven't even met, people who even listen to this radio show, who will say that like I show up in their dreams sometimes, and it's interesting because they'll tell me a story and it'll be new to me, and I'll be like, oh, that's really interesting. And it's weird because I can't remember too many off the top of my head right now. One in particular that I remember is that a friend of mine was telling me how I was actually like helping her through an ayahuasca ceremony within her dream, and she like had like a full-on ayahuasca experience in her dream, which I thought was like super interesting because I was like helping out as the shaman. So I mean, for me it's interesting because it's like that meant a lot to hear that, because it's like, whoa, you know, like there's a part of me that either they see that in me or that actually is a fragment of who I am, and simply by them telling me that, it allows me to like see that, to know that that is there within myself, like to be some sort of like guide or helper or whatever it is. But yeah,
So I see that in you. I mean, here you are holding space, even just what we are talking about now. It's awesome. You are fully committed to raising consciousness, and you create space where it's like acceptable and it's okay to even have this conversation. So that's awesome. We need so much of that, and here you are. I'm sure it takes for your own life like so much courage to do that, just to, you know what, I'm interested in these things, and I think people will be interested in them. So let me just create a space, and here we are in this space, feeling like hell yeah, I just want to be here, and it's awesome. People are pretty cool.
For sure, man, for sure, and definitely, like it's helping us wake up on multiple levels. Because again, you know, like that's kind of the big thing, is that people will always say that as we begin to realize that waking up within the dream state is part of the process of evolving our consciousness, the next step is to continue to like wake up within this state as well. So that's where you get into like the ideas of lucid living. Are you familiar with that term, lucid living? Like what does that mean to you?
Term. That's the ultimate goal. I love when it connects the dots, because I've seen a lot of content and things where people, it's just really just sort of, it's really seems like a big jerk off of like, yeah, we can be.
So hold on, Tom. You're breaking up for a bit. I'm just gonna mute you and then unmute you real quick. I don't know whether or not they will fix it, but let me just. Hello there. Okay, try again.
All right. I was just saying, maybe that's a way I can rephrase what I was saying. Did you hear any of that? I was cursed off people.
It's still kind of choppy. I don't know why. That's just like blog talk being blog talk. But try again on the topic of lucid living.
The point is that can you hear me? I'm talking. I feel weird.
I want to say yes, but it's still choppy. Goddamn Illuminati trying to censor our stuff here again.
Switch about that.
Okay. Try now. Just talk.
How's that? Checking my audio.
I'm gonna mute myself.
Okay. I'm gonna be switching headphones here because I really want to talk about this topic, because that's ultimately the goal of is to bring it to our waking life. Tell me if you can hear what I'm saying. Otherwise, I'm
just keep talking. We'll just roll with it. And this is, if it's choppy for everyone listening, this is just an opportunity to challenge to develop your psychic abilities, is what I'm saying. So
if I just switch out headphones, it's going to be like.
Go ahead. If you want to do it, go ahead. Okay, cool. All right, I'm gonna read a random passage from a book. So this is a book called Dream Yoga, Consciousness, Astral Projection, and Transformation of the Dream State. Oh wait, are you back already?
Yeah. Is that any?
I don't know if your headphones was actually causing the problem, but just talk, Tom. Okay. We'll just again.
I just want to. This is ultimately where I always wanted the conversation to go, because it's what the point about dream work is. It's not just about sleeping and dreaming and keeping it there and being like, ooh, we can fly around and be fully aware and conscious while we're dreaming. it's ultimately about bringing it back to our waking lives and turning this unconscious dream we call life into a lucid dream, one that we're actively shaping and creating. And how can we bring lucidity here? And that's ultimately the work that we're after. So to be lucid here would be to know that your thoughts and your emotions, that you are capable, I love this, that you can literally have a thought, you can have a desire, anything you want, you can actively create it into, you can transmute it into physical reality. Any thought you can have, you can turn that into an actual circumstance and reality for all of us to experience. That is such a gift. And ultimately then, where are we going with this? If we can create anything we want, if we can be lucid here and to remember ourselves to be infinite, what are we here to create? And what is that bigger picture? And I love lucid dreaming because it shows you that through direct experience. It's not something that, don't ever take my word for it, that you're infinite. Just, It's something that you have to personally, intimately know. So, to be lucid, I love that. Let's keep going on that.
Like, I think the incredibly, or sorry, I'm not trying to cut you off. I can't. Are you still talking?
No.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I was just making the most of it. So I was going to say what I think is incredibly valuable about the lucid dreaming experience is, you're right, it provides a visceral experience. And I mean, remembering your dreams is something, like, it's true, like, it's a valuable thing to remember your dreams and to think back and be like, wow, that was really real. But to be able to have a lucid dream experience, maybe if it's your first one, will change you. It will be something where you can experience another state of reality that is incredibly visceral, and it will just make you realize that, yes, there is more to this reality. Like, reality is not as cut and dry as it appears to be. So, I mean, that's where, in a lot of the stuff within all, like, the spiritual conversation, I think a lot of people can sort of get caught up in the hype. They can get caught up in the topics. They can get caught up in the links and that like the websites and the articles that they're sharing on their Facebook, that they actually forget, that they actually distract themselves from the process, from the esoteric practices involved with something such as a lucid dreaming experience. And again, it's such a worthwhile thing, because even when you have your first lucid dream experience, that is just like the tip of the iceberg. And again, like, I just want to explore, like, where else can these dreams take us? Like, I was asking, like, what are some of the things that we can do while we're lucid, but not even necessarily just when we're lucid, but like, what do you think, Tom? Like, where can we go within these dream realms, and like take that as far as you want to take it, so to speak?
I think the biggest thing we can even go towards is self-discovery, because I've had dreams of guidance in my personal life of where I need to go and how to solve relationships. I've healed relationships that I remember I had a very potent dream with an ex-girlfriend that was so potent for me. I was able to be good and actually things I needed to say to her. But more than all that, I think it's always about the bigger picture. It opens you up to a bigger picture of who you are. And I remember it's happened to me in a lot of lucid dreams, but one that's so specific, it was so amazing, and it brought me to tears. One of those where William H. Macy was not hugging me while I was bawling, but I was alone, bawling my eyes inside of a lucid dream, because I'm in a city and I'm up on top of, and here I am.
Say that again. What
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I hope this is all coming through. I'm just saying, like, roof, dream,
yes.
lucid.
Keep going.
No, this was a very potent lucid dream that really affected me and changed my whole lucid practice. Where I was in New York City, where I live, and I flew up on top of a building. Sort of, my flying skills have always been something that's interesting. I had to learn how to fly, learn how to turn, learn how to have these subtle nuances. So in this lucid dream, I had mastered somewhat flying. So I flew up like Magneto. I flew up in a very graceful standing position, which I felt like a badass. But the moment I hit that rooftop, I look out and I fully am humbled and brought to tears, because here I am, I can fully see in crystal clear horizon, miles beyond me. I can see the city, I can see people, I can see the buildings, and I realize I am inside of this dream, but more importantly than any of that, this whole dream is inside of me, that I am all of it. And in that moment, I felt ended. I didn't feel like I was Thomas any longer. I felt I embraced the cosmos as my extended body, or just I was all of it. And it was a huge moment where any of the dream that I was intimately connected to all of it, but that if I wanted to change it, it wasn't about even changing my thoughts or my emotions. That if I wanted to change it, I needed to change myself. I needed to change really fundamental things about me, my beliefs, my thoughts. But when I changed myself, the dream world would instantly reflect that. And that was a huge moment to realize, wow, that's actually how I'm and I want to change it. Some part of it, and to accept it. When I change myself, my thoughts, my expectations, my beliefs, the dream world will instantly reflect itself back. And that's a thing that I took into my waking life. If I want to really create my waking life, if I want to create something, there's nothing out of me to do anything. If I want to create something, I need to change myself, and the dream will reflect itself back. So it's always put it back into the driver's seat. You are responsible, and it's a very empowering thought, but also it takes you have to have responsibility for everything that shows up. Never a victim. It's always something that is in your ability to say yes or no to.
Very cool. For sure, man. Yeah, like some of the actual sights that can be experienced within dreams are so amazing. You're right. You can see like cosmic sunsets. Like some of the things that I've seen within my dreams have been just like astonishingly beautiful. And like I've seen like portals in the sky. I've seen the moon surrounded by like purple and green spiraling colors and flames. I've like seen just like incredibly like pristine, just things that it's hard to even put into words, but you're there, you're in front of it, and it's equally as real. Or rather, let me correct myself. It's equally unreal. And I think that's the important thing about this, is to realize that everything is equally unreal within this reality. It's just, again, it's just in different forms and different shapes and in different vibrations. So that's where, like, yes, like, just because something happened in a dream, don't just say, like, oh, it was just a dream or whatever. That dream was a gift from the universe that came to you. And if you're just taking it and just tossing it aside, then that is, like, as a student of the universe, that is like having a teacher in front of you and saying, like, I am here to teach you how to pass the test. All you have to do is take notes, or, like someone trying to give you a gift. And here you are sitting in class with your back turned to the teacher, not even paying attention, sort of thing. So as a student, really check in with yourself. Take notes. Write down your dreams. And the teacher will continue to progress the lesson with you. And it will continue to... So if it knows that you're paying attention, it will say, okay, all right, let me show you more. And it will continue to show you more. And, like, I'm just trying to think, like, even within my dreams, like, dreams communicate to us through the language of symbols. And I think that's a very important thing to understand, is that the universe itself communicates through the language of symbols. And that's where you get into the ideas of, like, synchronicity and stuff like that. One dream, I'll just share this real quick in 60 seconds or less. And it was a very symbolic dream, and it was blatant. It was blatant the symbolism for me. And basically what it was, I was, like, in some place, and there was a bunch of people, and they had, like, a string attached to their ankle that was all the way down to the ground, and it was hooked into the ground. But they were floating as if they were balloons. So everyone... Whoa, Tom, you got some extra noise.
Sorry.
Crinkling. It's okay. just moving stuff, I imagine. But yeah. So what? So in this dream, everybody is floating like a helium balloon, and they have a string attached to their ankle, and it's tied to the ground. Tom, I'm just getting some feedback from your end. I don't know what's causing that. Check.
Yeah.
All right, it's okay. Okay. I think it's okay. All right, so anyways, regardless of the echo, so people were floating like helium balloons, but they were still tied to the ground. And then I was one of these people. And then as I was standing there, this was actually before 2012, I might add, and as I was floating there were people who were like starting to float away, and they were like disconnecting their chains from the ground, and they would float up into the sky, and they would just like disappear into the sun. And then like as I was standing there and I was watching people, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to float away just yet. And then I like climbed down my string and back onto the ground and like got my feet back on the ground. So, I mean, to me, like it was this kind of idea that, you know, like some people are just like, and again, it was with like this 2012 shift time. It's like some people are just going to be like, yeah, you know, like let's like float away into Never Never Land, and nothing against Never Never Land, of course. But then, you know, and here I am. And when I woke up from that, I was like, that was me within my dream making a choice to stay here to do the work that needs to be done. And and like that's like when I woke up, I'm just like, yeah, like that's what I felt. That's what came out of it for me. So that's my dream in 60 seconds or less. But yeah,
wow.
there's lots of really interesting things that dreams can show.
Did you just say that nothing and never? I just hear.
What about Never Never Land?
Sorry, did you say nothing?
Well, I can't hear what you're asking if I said because you're a little choppy. But yes, I said something about Never Never Land. And as soon as you said
nothing ever gets done in Never Never Land.
Oh, I said nothing against Never Never Land. But yeah, that's
I thought.
All right.
For that,
yeah,
for that.
Tom, you're only not choppy if you're saying something that's not important. Just so you know, like that's I'm pretty sure that's how it works. So yeah, like
okay,
yeah.
So,
but anyways, okay. So we only got about 7 minutes left in the show. Just using this opportunity to just sort of recap and everything. Tom, what are just some simplifying some simple things that you just want to reiterate to the audience, to the people listening to this?
All right. Well, I hope this is audio recorded. If you want to learn to dream and actually know this natural thing that you do every night, then you begin looking. So we covered that. I want to also introduce a video, and I'll post the link online to the chat. I think this will, but a really technique if you want to become lucid is called the Wake to Bed. It's a really simple sleep for normal sleep, and you're about 6 hours. And the goal of waking up just for
okay, you're incredibly sorry, I just got it. You're incredibly choppy right now, and I know it sucks, but I know exactly what you're going to say, and I'm just going to reiterate it. The go back to sleep method, where you like wake up in the middle of the night and then go back to sleep and then wake up and go back to sleep. Is that what you're referring to? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Can you hear me okay now?
I hope so.
Okay.
Just go ahead. Yeah. Damn. Mercury retrograde. Go ahead.
It's a really it's a cool technique, and we made some video for it, and I just posted the link to the, what is this called? A feed of chat rooming. So I just posted, that's the official term, the technical term. But yeah, doing that technique, it's really interesting. It sucks to wake up 6 hours into your sleep. It's worse. And you're like, why am I doing this? When I walk through a doorway, and why am I waking up sleep? This person. And the answer is a little bit insane, absolutely. But that you have that more. It is.
Okay, go back 30 seconds and just repeat that last 30 seconds where you said it is.
That all crazy.
Right.
Just emphasizing that we're all crazy to look at through a doorway, or to things in our pocket that remind us if we're dreaming or not. Okay, so all of us listening a little weird, but at the same time, you have access to this.
Wow, that's choppy. Oh man, this is like passing a kidney stone here or something, because I really want to hear what you're saying.
Maybe it's
Okay, I'm just gonna mute you real quick and see if that, because I don't know, it kind of worked before. Okay, try now.
speaking.
Go ahead.
Words. Am I? Was purposefully choppy. Can we hear the words I'm saying? Is this
Try it again. Yeah. I don't. Oh my God! Come on, Blog Talk, work with us here. What is?
All right.
Oh man, this is all right. Okay. Like I know it will work. I am creating this dream right now. I can hear the words. Go for it. Try again.
Now I'm just gonna say absolutely. Just gonna say.
Nope, I didn't. No, that didn't come through either. So.
Oh. All right.
All right. Well, if there's anything important you want to just say, just type it to me real quick in Skype. We only got a couple minutes left on the show, so we're going to be wrapping up anyways. And I'm just going to remind people to check out your website. So you can check out the website for Thomas Peisel at dreamlabs.io is one of the websites. And then he's also got a Facebook page at Field Guide to Lucid Dreaming. Let me just double check that real quick. What is it? Facebook.com/Field Guide to Lucid Dreaming. So that's what people can check out there as well. And then, of course, you can also find Thomas on Facebook at his personal account at Facebook.com/Thomas_Peisel. And again, you can find the information for that in the links for the show note, or just run a search on it. And of course, you can find his book on Amazon, A Field Guide to Lucid Dreaming, and be sure to check that out. And you can add him on Facebook and tell him about your dreams in 60 seconds or less. So, cool. Okay, try again. I just want to see if there's anything else you just want to say.
Yeah, I love that. None of those 10-minute dreams. How many times have you heard a minute? A dream that takes 10 minutes to explain. It's the worst. It's the worst.
All right. Okay. So 1 minute left. Try and get in a final message or final goodbye, Thomas, and then quick reminder for people, there will be an after party hangout. You'll find the link at facebook.com/ParadigmShiftRadio. Oh, and the winner for this week's buttons are, oh my God, I almost forgot. So this week's winners are, excuse the lack of dramatic, is Colleen Sarah. All right, so congratulations to Colleen Sarah, and please donate to support the show and to be able to support the future of conscious media. Thank you very much, everyone who's listening. All right, Thomas, just try throwing in some sort of last nugget there, if you would.
Oh, wow. You really put me on the spot here. I'm going to say my words really for the last 30 seconds.
You only got 20 seconds.
All right, 20 seconds. What can we say about being lucid other than this is some really awesome work that any of us is doing? And, you put me on the spot here. I said so many good things, and I forget what I
Perfect.
said.
All right, so go back and listen to all the good things that Thomas Peisel said. Thank you very much for everyone who's tuned in. We're going off the air now. I'm going to play the outro music, and everybody else will be able to catch up with us in the after party hangout. So, Thomas, thank you so much, and we'll try this again sometime. I would love to have you back on the show, and we can chat some more. And we'll cool, man.
Thank you, man.
Cool. All right, so I'm playing the outro music now. So join me in saying goodbye to the internet. So, farewell, internet. Go write down your dreams and stuff. Be an active citizen of the universe and explore the realms within. Alright. Bye, guys. Bye. Thomas, say goodbye. Bye.
See ya. Thank you.
There you go. Oh my God. It's so clear now. Perfect.
Yeah.
Just in time. Alright. Thanks, dude. One love.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Paradigm Shift Radio. If you would like to connect with people where you are and continue the conversations further, then check out paradigmshiftcentral.com/buttons to order your supply of shift buttons to share with people to help invite them to this global project while also helping make new friends and building local community where you are. Shift buttons are tools to hack the matrix and tap into the synchronistic nature of reality to accelerate our collective awakening. Enter the promo code PSR into your order to receive additional bonus buttons to your supply. Thank you again, and one love.